In the previous tutorial, two of them, about how to read and write files in Python, we saw how to iteratively read lines pretty conveniently using Python. But now let's go back to the data file we were working with. That's a little more harder to work with because not everything is separated by lines. So first of all, if I try to preview the first line, Python 3, we have with open, object ID. So let's just start to write a function now instead of just writing it one by one. Read file, we call this one-liner. Read file, one-liner. Okay, so or can just say read file path and sort of like one line flag. So line flag, one line flag. So either if it's true, we just read one line. If it's not true, we read all the lines. So here we have with open the file name, the path, okay? And if it is just one line, so as f colon, if one line flag, if it's true, let's just read one line. I think I have way too many. Let me exit out of that. I think I have way too many indents. Read file, again, path, flag for one line. Okay. And then we have with open path, comma, oh, sorry, just as f. That's the alias for our file. If flag one line is true, what we do is we just read one line. So data equals to f dot read line, just one line. Else data equal to f dot read lines, f dot close the file. Actually, don't have to return data. And should work. Read file. And the file name is object IDs.txt. And let's say it's true. It still read everything. so the problem, right? The problem with this file, and just a reminder of the problem, is that everything is in one line. There's no way to separate it. So it's kind of frustrating. But we do know if we were to go back to the API, the documentation, we kind of know that this, I think I deleted. Let's see if I can. We do know there's the first few characters, however long this is, and the last character, the last two. So let me note this down. So there are two things we know. The first few characters should be removed because they have nothing to do with the object ID. And at the end of the file, there's a square bracket and curly braces, which we also don't want to. There are ways to load it, like we can use a JavaScript, load it as a JavaScript file, and then get the key. But let's just say if we were to do it iteratively, how do we do it? So first of all, let's clear. We may have to rewrite our read file function, but since it's not very useful, it's going to be fine. There's another way to read this, read these files. So I can redefine my read file function. So read file function, and it takes in a path, and we can say it takes in a mode, kind of like the open function. And then we can say with open path, and then we can pass in the mode, but we can also do this. So I can do this. So earlier we said if mode equals to, how about now we just say if it's one line, or like one. Let's do one line. Then what we did was f dot read data equals to f dot read line. It didn't make much of a difference earlier, but it's something nice to bake in. So let's just say there is no mode specified, or just say all. Be explicit is better in Python, equals to read lines. Okay, and then else if mode equals to what do we do here? We should do this. We should do one more is one character at a time. That is possible. So this one we will have to say f.read read one. Okay, so this actually, this can go on, and then we can just, I kind of want to read the first few lines. So let's just read the first few characters, right? So for I in range, so I'm gonna enter result list, data equals to this, just keep it consistent. And then for I in range 10, what I'm gonna do is this character is just gonna be f read one character at a time. And when it read that, it will append it to the data. Okay, and I need to take care of else. So I just say, it's not very good, but we just say error, please specify a mode. And remember, we still have to close the file and then we'll return data. Okay, so kind of involved, but so we have now we want to say object IDs .txt, and the mode I want it to be actually one character now, except it's like reading 10 characters. So this is starting to be nice. It start to read all the initial characters, so the curly brackets, the these characters. So I can start to remove that from the file and start to combine this and start to write to another file that I want to write to. And then this way I can start to clean up the data a little bit. Cool. Yep. So I want to just not take the first few characters and the last few characters. So what I can do is this, right? I can definitely do a length. So now if I read file dot the same file, okay, and if I say all, it should ideally read all of it to me, and I will store that in variable code data for now, and I can measure the length of the data, and it is just 1. Is because it used read line, I think. Yes, so I want to do 2 things. I want to use data equals to data 0 because it just read the line. So because it's using the read lines function, everything is like put into a line. I want to use the 0th. It's kind of hacky, but I want to use 0th index to get all the data. And so now if I measure length of data, it will give me some useful things. So I want to essentially take out the first few character and the last few character. And whenever I encounter the comma, I want to replace it as a /n. See where I'm getting at? Okay, cool. So this data is very frustrating. I'm just going to do a quick Command F. Even the terminal is getting a little hung up. Doing a Command F. Just want to find my read file function, copy that over and start over. You can see when we have a lot of data in memory, it's starting to get a little tricky. Okay, so let me copy this beautiful thing And then I think we can reuse it. It'll be nice. And when reusing it, I just want to delete all this extra stuff and then delete all the extra stuff. There's still a little bit of spacing issue. Can easily fix that in Sublime. Okay, so now I'm comfortable quitting this, clearing it all up, and start over again. What I want to do, except I didn't take down the length thing. So oops, we have to measure that again. So cool. Let's just change the API here a little bit since we already know it's reading line by line. In this particular case, let's just add this data equals to data because people are not going to know, right? We want to make it easy for function, useful for reading large one-liner files, and just let people know why we did this really hacky way of doing things. Okay, obviously there's a lot to improve on this API, but let's just use this for now. Okay, and then I will read file and object ids.txt, and the mode is all. Okay, and I'll store that into data. And this time it should just, the length should be what I want. So here's a couple of things I want to do, right? So now what's nice is once I have this as a data file, I can pretty much do this now. So that's already starting to, life is starting to be easy, right? So I can do a couple of things now because I managed to read this file into Python, and in Python, I can work with it like a list. It's still very large as a list, but at least I can do something now. Okay, so one thing I want to do is definitely, I don't want to work with the last two characters. So I don't want the last two characters, right? And then I also don't want, I just want to see the last two real quick. Oops. Okay, overridden. Okay, so I want to see the last two characters super quick. Okay, cool. This is what I want to get rid of. So I can do this first. It does not allow this. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. How do we do this? Is just like, instead of having this, we just have this -2. Okay, and it's always worth it to just check. I can overridden. So my bad. It's good that we have that in memory now. So just super quick. So make sure. Okay, and then this one, yeah, it's not what we want basically. So we can just say something like this, I believe. And then we also want to get the beginning. Let's just super quickly check what is this character so we don't accidentally have off by one error. Okay, cool. We got the 18. Very nice. Okay, the same digits as this one. Cool. It's displaying everything again. Okay, and now we want to make sure the first field, right? The first field we also want to get rid of. So let me copy that over. That was easy to view on the browser, harder to view on the file. Just surround this by quotes so I can measure the length. Just accidentally click. Oh, because everything is in double quotes. So because everything inside is in double quotes, we have to put this in single quotes. So now our data should start as the 20, let's just make sure 29th is 1, 28th is not what we want. So we have 29th to the end. And this is what our new data file should equal to. All right. Somehow we didn't replace the end. So we also want to say equals to almost the last two. So the obviously the how do you say it? It changed. So let's pause for a second. Just be very kosher. The left indicator we want is 29 because there are 29 characters in this string that we want to get rid of. The right side we want is basically length of data. So because I overridden data before, I'm gonna start over again with a clean copy of the data. Okay, and then I want the right side to be length of data minus 2. Okay, so now my left is this and my right is this, and this will be easier to work with. And now I want to make my data file equals to a sliced version of the data, which is left 2, right? Okay, and it should end nicely on 8, and the beginning should start with 1. And we can now easily view that by viewing the first field. Okay, cool. So this is much, much better. And now I just need to kind of rewrite this into a new text file with lines separated. So let's just see if we can do a split, because that would be nice, right? And yes, we did. Okay, that's gonna make our lives really easy. So now there's a way to already dump this as CSV. Python has a method for that. And we can definitely convert a list to CSV. And this is really nice now. So our thing, we'll be able to easily read this. So let me just look that super quick, right? Python list to CSV. How do I know this is a list? You can always check your object. Okay, save list to CSV. Okay, cool. It's just a very similar writing, but now we want to write it as a CSV. So we use the import CSV module instead of what we wrote earlier. And this one is we want to write fields, and then we want to write rows. Interesting. Okay, let me just read the actual Python CSV documentation would be better. Yeah, like recently there's a lot of great tutorials, and we write some of that ourselves, but I think it's always good to go back to the actual, the best. Cool. So if I can just export a list to CSV. I bet you anything someone has written that. But looking for writer here. And just like, yeah, we can just write rows. It's that simple, really. I think so. Okay. Yeah, so let's just do that, right? Let's do two things. First of all, we're in Python command prompt already. We can import the CSV library. And what we can do is the new line is, I definitely want to specify the new line parameter. It should open with new line. If a CSV file is a file object, it should be opened with new line. Okay, sure. Guess that's just how it is. Spam reader or some kind of reader. We don't have to. Delimiter is that. And cool. This is actually reading this file too. I want to write. Here we go. Okay, I want to use this, and then we use the writer. Cool. Let me edit that super quick. I believe I can do this. And let me change that into something more meaningful. Data CSV, new line, sure. So like my data writer, give it a more meaningful name, right? And this is just comma separated. So pretty easy. Let's delete one of them just to make sure we're doing the right thing. I guess we have to write like a list. That's interesting. Let's see if that's must. Okay, quote character, and delimiter should be this, comma. Let's just see how that works, okay? And let's go back to 1, 2, 3. And then hopefully this will write a new row. I think it would, absolutely would, because the wording is very clear. Always like to close it. So I already imported CSV. Technically, I don't need to do it again, but cool. And then now I can open that file. So let me just read files, and it's actually easier to cat it. Just make sure we're seeing what the cloud providers, the data platforms will see. Okay, so that's really nice. It wrote each row. So now we have a Python list. We can iterate through it, and this is how we want to do it. We previously, there was a video about how to write to Python, how to write files using Python, and this video is basically just built on top of that. So very similarly, we'll just use this, what we have here. So I think by creating the command prompt, I already left the data file. So that's too bad. So we have to do that super quick. And hopefully this time it will be super fast. And I'll try to be super fast. Raise myself. Object IDs.txt. And it's kind of nice. We get to see what we did all together. Okay, all. And yep. And this will be our initial data. Okay, length of data. And we were able to measure the first few strings we don't want, right? So would be, so our left was 29. The strings we don't want. The right was like the length of data minus 2. Okay, and then now what we can do is our data equals to a slice of the data now, 29 to, so left to right. This is how we want to slice it. And our length of data should be much smaller. Should be, you can assert length of data equals to basically length of data now equals to this number minus 29 minus 2. Okay, didn't throw an error, so that worked. Excellent. And then what we want to do is we want to split this string by comma into a Python list. So now we have this Python list. And just to check what we're working with is great. Okay, excellent. So now what we can start to write our CSV file, right? So I can just say import CSV, and with open this data file, it's gonna override the previous one. Okay, I'm gonna select, just set some of these stuff. Okay, and I want to say for I in, yeah, I can just say that for IDs in data, because it's text, technically we should just be able to do that. Our data writer dot write, and should be able to just write that, yeah. And yeah, should be able to just write the ID. And once it's super done with all these files, we should be able to just do a CSV file.close. And remember that CSV is just an alias. Has no attribute right. Yes, it's a right row. That's cool. Let's just do this all over again. So open the file with writing mode, give it an alias. specify some configuration about how we want the Excel file to be. And instead of using write, which was incorrect earlier, use the, oh, sorry, we have to iterate through our data for ID, in data, our data list, data writer, which is this object initiated here, dot write row, put it in a list, give that single ID we have, and then we want to have the CSV file that close, and wrote a lot of stuff. But that was very fast. That was really fast compared to if we were to do it ourselves. So we can, or do it manually. And now we have this lovely list of finely separated, truly CSV file. So this way we can upload it to, we can slice and dice it in pandas. In an earlier video, we talked about that. And we can upload it to cloud data platforms to analyze it, cast it into a pandas column, cast it into a SQL column. So this is gonna be great.